The sun was setting red as blood when Silas Coyote crossed the last hill. 3 days selling cattle in Amarillo, eager to embrace his mother and hear the laughter of his younger siblings. But the silence, that cursed silence that made the hair on his neck stand up. There was no smoke coming from the chimney. The horses weren't whinnying in the corral. Even the roosters, always noisy at dusk, were silent. Silas spurred his horse, his heart hammering against his ribs like a war drum. The door of the house was wide open, swinging in the wind like a hanged man. Dark stains decorated the porch, stains he prayed weren't what they appeared to be. He dismounted with wobbly legs, his father's Colt .45 already in hand, though he knew he had arrived too late. "Mother." His voice broke like glass. "Samuel, Mary." He found them in the barn. The whole family. Mother, father, the 12-year-old twins. Executed. No chance to defend themselves. Fury rose like bile in his throat when he saw the marks, horseshoes with the raven symbol. Everyone in Black Rock knew that mark, Colonel Mordecai Crow. With hands trembling from rage, not fear, Silas began to dig. 4 graves, 4 oaths whispered to the desert wind. When the moon rose, he stood before the graves, his face a mask of determination. "I swear on your bones." His voice cut through the night like a razor. "Crow will pay. Every drop of coyote blood will be avenged." A coyote howled in the distance, as if the desert itself accepted his oath. Silas mounted, looked back one last time, and headed toward Black Rock. The boy had died in that barn. What rode now was something else. It was vengeance. "And you? Would you make the same oath? What do you think Silas will find in Black Rock? Comment your theory." The dust of Black Rock stuck in the throat like cemetery sand. Silas Coyote stopped his horse at the entrance to town, watching. 3 days riding with death on his back and vengeance in his heart. The town seemed like a cornered dog, too quiet, too fearful, breathing only as necessary to survive. The wooden buildings aligned crookedly on the main street, like rotten teeth in a drunkard's mouth. The Last Gulp Saloon dominated one side, Father Elias Navarro's church the other. Salvation and damnation eternally facing each other. Between them, shops with windows closed despite it being midday, like eyes refusing to see. Silas dismounted in front of the water trough. His horse drank thirstily, but he kept his eyes scanning the street. 2 armed men on the saloon porch, tin stars on their chests. Crows purchased law. A third watched from the bank's roof, all with the same mark on their holsters, the Black Raven. "You shouldn't be here, stranger." The voice came from behind. Silas turned slowly, his hand away from the colt. A young woman stood at the door of the blacksmith shop, her eyes dark as burnt coffee, black hair tied in a bun that fought against the wind. She had flour on her hands and iron in her gaze. "I'm where I need to be, miss." "Esperanza," she corrected, lowering her voice. "Esperanza Delgado. And if you have any sense, you'll take your horse and leave before they ask your name." Silas Coyote. The name made the blacksmith's hammer stop beating. The silence lasted 3 heartbeats before the sound returned, weaker, hesitant. Esperanza paled, then her eyes gleamed with something he recognized, not fear, but hatred. "Come inside," she whispered urgently. "Quickly, before someone else hears that cursed name." The blacksmith shop was dark, hot as the forges of hell. Her father, a Mexican with tree trunk arms, stopped working when he saw them. "Papa, he's a coyote." The old man spat on the ground. "Then he's a dead man walking. Crow doesn't leave coyotes alive." "He already tried," Silas replied, his voice cold as steel. "Killed 4, forgot 1. Esperanza touched his arm, and he felt work calluses on her fingers. "My brother, too, 2 winters ago. Said he wouldn't pay protection anymore. We found him hanging from the hanging tree with a raven nailed to his chest." "How many more?" Silas asked. "All who tried to resist. Farmers, merchants, even the old sheriff. Crow controls the water, the lands, the fear. He has 40 men, maybe more," Sheriff Bartholomew Cage eats from his hand like a domesticated dog. The old blacksmith approached, his face marked by years of sun and suffering. If you want to die, die, but don't bring more death to my door. I didn't come to die, Silas said, meeting Esperanza's eyes. I came to collect a debt, with interest. She smiled, bitter and beautiful at the same time. Then you'll need allies, and I know where to find some. People who have lost as much as you. People waiting for someone brave, or foolish, enough to fire the first shot. From outside, the sound of horses, many horses. Esperanza pushed him behind a pile of horseshoes. It's them, she whispered. Crow's collectors. Hide or fight, but decide now. Silas touched the handle of his Colt. 40 men was a lot, but he had to start somewhere. The Last Gulp saloon reeked of cheap whiskey, sweat, and fear. Silas pushed through the swing doors, leaving the midday sun at his back like a mantle of light. Conversations died like candles in the wind. Even the piano went off key and fell silent. 3 of Crow's men at the bar, 2 playing cards in the corner. Sheriff Cage alone at a table, his belly spilling over his belt, flies buzzing around his plate of beans. Dutch Van Horn, the saloon owner, stopped wiping a glass, cleaned for 10 minutes, and became a statue. Silas walked to the bar. With each step, his spurs sang death. Each floorboard creaked a funeral prayer. Whiskey, he ordered, his voice calm as a lake before the storm. Dutch served with a trembling hand. The amber liquid danced in the glass. Silas drank slowly, feeling the eyes on his back like hot irons. In the mirror behind the bar, he saw one of Crow's men stand up, Josiah Goldtooth McCain, known for shooting first and never asking questions. You look like a coyote. Goldtooth spat the words like poison. Thought we'd finished off that plague. Silas set down his glass. The silence was now solid, heavy as lead. Plagues are hard to exterminate. There's always one left to infest again. Nervous laughter. Goldtooth approached, the other 2 following him like hyenas. Boy, do you know who you're talking to? I'm the man who helped clean out your farm. Your mother screamed pretty before. The glass exploded in Goldtooth's face before he could finish. Blood and whiskey mixed. Silas already had the Colt in his hand when the first thug reached for his holster. The bullet caught the man in the shoulder, spinning him like a top. The second tried to draw. His knee exploded before the gun left the holster. Goldtooth, his face a red mask of shards and hatred, managed to draw. The guns fired together. Goldtooth's bullet whistled past Silas's ear. Silas's found flesh, throwing Goldtooth onto a table that broke like twigs. Anyone else want to talk about my mother? Silence. Even the flies stopped buzzing. Sheriff Cage rose heavily, his fat hand away from his weapon. Boy, you just signed your death warrant. I signed it 3 days ago, Sheriff, when I found my family in the barn. Silas kept the Colt pointed. The question is, do you want to sign yours now, or will you sit down and finish your beans? Cage looked at the fallen, groaning men. Calculated. Sat down. This won't stand, he growled. The colonel will know within the hour. Excellent. Tell Mordecai Crow that Silas Coyote is in town. Tell him I've come to collect for the blood spilled. And tell him... Silas walked to the door, stopping at the threshold. This was just the beginning. He walked out, not running. In the shadows between buildings, he saw Esperanza watching, a rifle in her hands. She nodded, approval or warning, he couldn't tell. From the saloon he heard Dutch Van Horn finally speak. Boys, someone better warn the colonel, and someone better start digging 3 graves. Or maybe 7. That boy has the devil in his eyes. Joachim Storm emerged from an alley, limping with a bad leg. Nice show, kid. Stupid, but nice. Crow will send 20 men now. Let them come, Silas replied, reloading the Colt. I have bullets for all. The old man laughed, a sound like distant thunder. I like you, Coyote. We'll die, but we'll die shooting. Esperanza joined them. Not if we die first. I know a place, but we have to go now. Hooves thundered in the distance. Many hooves. The hideout was beneath the abandoned church of St. Anthony, on the outskirts of Black Rock. Esperanza guided them through tunnels that smelled of mold and forgotten history. By lamplight, Silas saw faces emerging from the shadows. A dozen, perhaps more, all marked by the same pain he carried. "Welcome to hell, kid." Joachim Storm lit a cigar with his left hand. The right, Silas noticed, trembled slightly. Or perhaps purgatory. We haven't decided yet. The man was a walking ruin. Prematurely gray hair, eyes that had seen too much, scars telling stories no one wanted to hear. But when he held the Remington, the trembling disappeared like magic. "You're Storm," Silas recognized. "They say you killed 30 men in Tombstone." 37, he corrected without pride. "And each one cost me a piece of my soul. I came to Black Rock running from what I did, found Crow along the way." He showed his bad leg, his gift when I refused to be his watchdog. He let me live to serve as an example. Esperanza brought bitter coffee and hard bread. "Everyone here has a score with Crow. Miguel lost his lands, Widow Shannon, her husband, the Kruger brothers, their family distillery. And you?" Silas asked. She looked away. "I already told you, my brother Francisco. He was 16, dreamed of being a lawyer, believed in justice." She laughed bitterly. "Crow taught that justice here comes from the barrel of a gun." "Then we'll teach a lesson too," Silas said. A man as thin as a green stick stood up. "With what army, kid? We're 15 counting you. Crow has 50 gunmen, the sheriff in his pocket, and half the town too afraid to even breathe." "Fear," Joachim spat. "It's what made me run all my life. Not of death. Fear of living with what I did. But this kid..." He looked at Silas. "He has no fear. He has something worse. He has purpose." "Purposes don't stop bullets," someone muttered. "No," Silas agreed. "But they make you keep standing after taking one. I saw all of you today, in the windows, in the shadows. You saw what happened in the saloon. 3 of Crow's men on the ground, and I walked out." "Luck," said the thin man. "It wasn't luck." Esperanza intervened, her eyes shining. "It was skill, and more. It was someone finally doing something. Papa said half the town saw. They're whispering, some even smiling." Joachim stood up, limping to a chest in the corner. He opened it, revealing weapons, Winchesters, Colts, even dynamite. "I've been keeping this for 3 years, waiting for the right moment, or the right man. I'm no hero," Silas warned. "I came here to kill Crow, nothing more." "And we want freedom," Joachim retorted. "Different objectives, same enemy." "This is how revolutions begin, kid." Esperanza touched Silas's arm. "My father was a blacksmith in Juarez. Do you know what he used to say? A sword alone breaks. Several together form an army." Footsteps echoed in the tunnel. Everyone drew weapons. Father Elias Navarro emerged, his cassock dirty with earth. "Calm down, friends. I've brought news." His eyes met Silas's. "Crow is furious. He's offered $1,000 for your head. Alive, preferably. He wants to make a public example." "Let him try," Silas replied. "He will. Tomorrow at dawn. He's sending Ezekiel, Bone, Flint, and 20 men to search the town, house by house." "Then we won't be here." Joachim smiled, predatory. "We'll be where he doesn't expect." "Are you suggesting we attack first?" Esperanza asked. "I'm suggesting we show Black Rock that Crow bleeds like any man." Silas looked around. Tired faces, marked, but now with something new, a spark of hope. "Who's with me?" One by one, they raised their hands, even the thin man. "Then it's decided." Joachim raised his cigar like a toast. "Tomorrow the war begins." Vulture Gorge was a scar in the earth, cut by ages of furious water that now ran only in the memory of the stones. At dawn, Ezekiel, Bone, Flint led 20 men through the narrow throat, looking for tracks. They didn't know they were the prey. Silas watched from above, lying among the red rocks. Esperanza to his right, Joachim to his left. The others scattered like seeds of death along the escarpments. The sun rose bloody, painting the gorge like an omen. "Wait," Joachim whispered. "Let them all enter the mousetrap." Flint was easy to identify, Thin as death during famine, dressed in black, 2 colts crossed on his chest. They said he collected bones from the men he killed. A macabre rosary hung from his neck. "Now," Silas murmured. The first dynamite exploded at the entrance to the gorge, sealing the retreat. The second at the exit. Rocks collapsed like divine fists. Horses reared, men shouted. "It's an ambush!" Flint bellowed the obvious, already dismounting, seeking cover. The rifles sang from the heights. Joaquim shot with surgical precision, each bullet a sentence. Esperanza aimed at the horses, bringing down mounts, creating chaos. Silas searched for Flint in the dust and confusion. Crow's men returned fire, but shooting upward, against the sun, was like fighting the sky itself. 3 fell in the first seconds. Others hid behind rocks, dead horses, anything. "Climb the walls," Flint ordered. "Kill them all." 5 men tried to climb. Miguel and the Kruger brothers greeted them with hot lead. Bodies rolled like stones, breaking in the same places. That's when everything changed. A shot came from an impossible place, from behind them. Joaquim grunted, his hand flying to his shoulder. Blood gushed between his fingers. "Snipers!" Esperanza shouted. "They have men on our side!" Crow had anticipated the ambush, or someone had talked. 3 shooters emerged from the rocks above them, cutting their advantage. "Retreat!" Silas ordered, but there was nowhere to go. They were trapped between 2 fires. Joaquim, even wounded, rolled to a new position and took down a shooter. The man fell screaming, 30 meters of free fall. But 2 others continued shooting. The thin man, Jenkins was his name, tried to run. A bullet found his back. He fell face first in the red earth, never moved again. "Coyote!" Flint shouted from below. "I know you're there. Come down and fight like a man." Silas made the decision in a second. He took Joaquim's rifle, aimed at the barrel of powder they had hidden in the wall of the gorge. The bullet found its target. The explosion shook the earth. Half the wall collapsed, creating a ramp of debris. But it also exposed their position. "There!" Flint pointed. $1,000 for whoever brings me his head." "Go!" Esperanza pushed Silas. "Take Joaquim. I'll hold them. I don't leave anyone. Go!" She was already shooting, each shot a furious prayer. Silas threw Joaquim's arm over his shoulders. The man weighed like lead, leaving a red trail. They stumbled down the opposite slope, bullets buzzing like wasps. Behind them, Esperanza screamed, pain or anger, he couldn't tell. They reached the hidden horses. Silas threw Joaquim over the saddle, mounted behind. He looked back, smoke, dust, shapes running. "The girl!" Joaquim coughed blood. "We have to—" A final explosion. Esperanza had used the last dynamite. Then silence except for the cries of the wounded. Silas spurred the horse, the taste of defeat bitter as gall. The ambush had worked, partially. Half of Flint's men were dead or wounded. But the price? She escaped. Joaquim murmured, "More hope than certainty." "That girl is smart." Silas didn't respond. He rode hard toward town, the sun now high, merciless. Joaquim bled on his back. Behind them, Flint had survived, and now he would know exactly who to look for. The war had begun. But victories, Silas was learning, tasted like ashes when you lost someone along the way. Old Doc Morrison's office reeked of ether and despair. Joaquim burned with fever as the drunk doctor tried to extract the bullet. Silas kept watch at the window, observing the street. Black Rock was boiling like a kicked anthill. Crow's riders everywhere, looking for survivors. "She's alive." Father Elias entered without knocking, his face sweaty from running. "Esperanza, I saw 2 men dragging her to the jail." Relief and fury battled in Silas's chest. Alive, but a prisoner. "How many did we lose?" "Jenkins dead. Miguel too, trying to come back. The Krugers escaped." The priest hesitated. "Silas, I need to show you something. Something about your family." They left the doctor working and went down to the church basement. Elias removed false bricks from the wall, revealing a safe. Inside, yellowed documents and a map. "Your father gave me this 2 years ago," Elias explained, "in case something happened." Silas read, his hands trembling. Contracts, topographical maps, soil analyses, all pointing to a devastating truth. Water, he whispered. There's a huge underground aquifer beneath our lands. Enough to irrigate 1,000 acres. Transform black rock into the largest cattle producer in Texas. Elias pointed to another document. Your father discovered it first. He was going to register the claim this week. Did Crow know? Look at the surveyor's signature. Bartholomew Cage, the sheriff. Before being bought by Crow, he was a surveyor. He had done the secret analysis for Silas's father. Cage sold the information, Silas concluded, hatred boiling. Crow killed my family for the water. There's more. Elias showed a letter. Your father was suspicious. He wrote to the federal marshal in Austin. The response arrived after, he hesitated, after the massacre. Silas read, the federal government would investigate Crow for murder, land theft, and corruption, but they needed concrete evidence and living witnesses. This is enough to hang Crow legally, Elias said, but the evidence needs to reach Austin, and all the witnesses are dead or too scared. Esperanza isn't scared. Esperanza will be dead by dawn. Crow will hang her as an example. Unless, Elias stopped. Unless, Flint spread the message. Crow wants to negotiate. You surrender, she lives. Silas punched the wall. Dust fell from the ceiling. It's a trap. Of course it is, but it's her only chance. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Dutch Van Horn appeared, carrying a Winchester and an expression Silas had never seen. Determination. Doc saved Joaquim, he announced. And I have news. Half the town is seething. What you did today. No one has ever hurt Crow's men so much. People are talking about resisting. Talking doesn't shoot anyone, Silas retorted. No, but this does. Dutch showed a key. Storage behind my saloon. 20 rifles, ammunition. I hid it from Crow for years, waiting. I don't know what I was waiting for. Maybe I was waiting for you, kid. Why now? Dutch stared at the floor. Crow killed my son 5 years ago. Said it was a hunting accident. I let it go. Pretended to be a coward to survive. But today, seeing you and that Mexican girl fighting. He raised his eyes, moist but resolute. Enough pretending. Enough fear. Silas looked at the documents, the evidence that could legally destroy Crow. He thought of Esperanza in jail, Joaquim fighting for his life, the dead in the gorge. Father, hide these papers. If I die, send them to Austin. He checked the Colt. Dutch, distribute the weapons to whoever has courage. Discreetly. What are you going to do? Elias asked. I'm going to negotiate with Crow, but my way. It's suicide. No. Silas smiled, cold as a blade. It's distraction. While Crow looks at me, you prepare the town, because this doesn't end with me or with Esperanza. It ends with Black Rock free or Black Rock dead. The church bell struck midnight. Somewhere an owl hooted. Bad omen or call to war, only dawn would tell. The Black Rock jail was a box of stone and iron, built to last longer than the prisoner's hope. Silas watched from the roof of the boarding house, counting guards. 6 in front, probably more inside. Esperanza was in the last cell. He could see her silhouette through the barred window. Terrible idea, Joaquim grumbled beside him, his arm in a sling, his face as pale as the moon. Should be in bed, not planning madness. You should be dead, Silas retorted. We're even. Crow sent a message. Dutch arrived crawling across the roof, clumsy as a bear in a tree. He wants you at his ranch, tomorrow at noon, alone. Said if you don't show up, he'll hang the girl and 3 others as an example. 3 others? He'll draw lots in the square, for the town to see the price of rebellion. Silas spat. Then we have to get her out today. With 6 men? Joaquim pointed to the street. And patrols every hour? We won't fight, Silas said. We'll make Crow fight against himself. Half an hour later, the plan was in motion. Dutch entered the saloon, serving free drinks to Crow's thugs who weren't on duty. Courtesy of the house, boys. Today was a hard day. The whiskey was good, Dutch's best, saved for special occasions, and seasoned with enough laudanum to knock down a bull. Meanwhile, Father Elias visited the jail. "I've come to give extreme unction to the prisoner." "She's not going to die today, Father." The guard laughed. "The soul does not wait for a convenient hour, son. At least let me pray with her." Reluctantly, they let the priest enter, under supervision. Elias knelt before Esperanza's cell, whispering in Latin. Between prayers, words in Spanish, too low for the guards to understand. "Midnight, be ready." Outside, Silas prepared the final blow. He took the oldest horse from the stable, tied gunpowder to the saddle, lit a long fuse. He pointed the animal toward Crow's warehouse on the other side of town and slapped its flank. 20 minutes to midnight, the warehouse exploded like hell itself opening. Flames licked the sky, ammunition boxes exploding like a San Juan festival. Half the town woke up screaming, "Fire! Fire in the warehouse!" Guards abandoned posts, running to save Crow's supplies. In the confusion, no one noticed 3 men approaching the jail from the rear. Joaquim, even wounded, took down the first guard with a pistol whipping. Silas strangled the second until unconsciousness. The third tried to shout. Dutch's knife found his throat first. Inside, 2 guards remained with Esperanza. They heard the door, turned. Silas and Joaquim already entering, shooting. One fell immediately. The other managed to fire, the bullet whistling past Silas's ear before Joaquim finished him. "The keys!" Esperanza shouted from the cell. Silas searched the dead guard, found the bunch. Hands trembling from adrenaline, he opened the cell. Esperanza came out like a caged puma, took the fallen guard's gun. "Are you hurt?" Silas examined her face, black eye, split lip. "Nothing that prevents me from shooting." She touched his face briefly. "I knew you'd come." "Moving," Joaquim interrupted. "But we have to go, now." Explosions continued on the other side of town, but soon they would discover the trick. They ran through the alleys, Esperanza limping slightly. They reached the hidden horses when they heard the jail bell ringing. They had discovered the escape. "Where to?" Dutch asked, mounting clumsily. "Kruger Ranch," Joaquim decided. "Abandoned, but has a well and thick walls." They rode hard under the moon, leaving Black Rock in chaos. Behind them, the warehouse was still burning, painting clouds red. Ahead, the desert opened like a promise or a threat. "Crow will go crazy," Esperanza said, almost smiling. "That's the plan," Silas replied. "An angry man makes mistakes." "And a man in love?" she asked, looking at him sideways. Before he could answer, Joaquim pointed behind. "Riders, many." Dust rose in the distance, torches like fallen stars. The hunt had begun. Will they escape? What will Crow do when he learns of the rescue? Who else will join the rebellion? The Kruger Ranch was a skeleton of wood and memories, but the adobe walls still held. They arrived with their horses foaming, the sound of pursuers echoing in the night. Joaquim fell from the saddle, the reopened wound bleeding through the bandages. "How many?" Silas asked Dutch, who was watching through a broken window. 20, maybe 30, and more coming. Esperanza dragged Joaquim inside, tearing her own skirt to make new bandages. "He needs a doctor or he'll die." "We'll all die if we don't think of something," Dutch muttered, counting the ammunition. "We have bullets for maybe 10 minutes of gunfire." Silas studied the terrain. The ranch was on a small elevation, surrounded by rocks on one side, open plain on the other. Defensible, but with no escape route. A perfect tomb. They didn't come to kill us, he suddenly realized. They want us alive. Crow wants his public spectacle. As if confirming, Ezekiel Bone Flint shouted from the darkness, "Coyote, send the woman and the old man out. It's you we want." "Go to hell, Flint," Esperanza shouted back, already positioned at a window with a rifle. The answer came in lead. Bullets rained on the ranch, shattering wood, raising dust. They returned fire, economical, each shot counting. A thug tried to approach from the blind side. Esperanza took him down at 40 meters. Another tried from the back. Dutch hit his leg, leaving him screaming on the ground. "They're testing our defenses," Joaquim observed, struggling to stay conscious. Soon they'll attack in force. That's when they heard it. Horses, many. But they weren't coming from Flint's direction. More of his men? Dutch despaired. Silas peeked carefully. By moonlight, he saw riders approaching from behind Flint. They carried torches and it was impossible, but it seemed. It's the farmers, Esperanza shouted. The small landowners. There must be 15-20 of them. Samuel Morrison, son of the drunk doctor. The Kruger brothers, original owners of the ranch. Theodore Chang, the Chinese man who ran the laundry. Men and some women whom Crow had trampled for years, now armed with what Dutch had distributed, plus farm tools transformed into weapons. For the Coyotes and for Black Rock, they shouted, attacking Flint's rear. Chaos. Crow's men, caught between two fires, panicked. Flint shouted orders, trying to reorganize, but surprise and fury were powerful weapons. Now, Silas ordered, we go out shooting. They burst from the ranch like demons, attacking the confused thugs from the front. Silas saw Flint turning, trying to aim at Esperanza. Without thinking, he threw himself in front. The bullet whistled past where she would have been. Esperanza didn't hesitate. Her rifle spoke and Flint staggered, holding his shoulder, but the bastard was tough. Even wounded, he killed 2 farmers before Dutch hit his leg. The battle turned to massacre. Thugs fled or fell. In minutes, it was over. Dust settling revealed the price. 5 farmers dead, several wounded. Of Crow's 30 men, half lay on the ground. The others fled, including Flint, dragged away by 2 comrades. Samuel Morrison approached, his young face aged by violence. We decided enough is enough. If we're going to die, we die fighting. This is just the beginning, Chang added, his broken English determined. More will come. Whole town talk, some afraid, but others. He smiled. Others clean hidden guns. Joachim, supported by Dutch, laughed weakly. Revolution. Damn, kid, you started a revolution. No, Silas corrected, looking at the faces around. Dirty, tired, but alive with purpose. You started it. I just lit the fuse. Esperanza took his hand, interlacing fingers. Crow will bring all his men now. It will be total war. Then let it come. One of the Krugers spat. This ranch was ours. This land is ours. Time to collect the rent. The sun was beginning to rise, painting the massacre golden. Ravens already circled, patient. In Black Rock, the bell rang alarm. The town was waking to a new reality. War had come to its doors. But for the first time in years, something else had come too. Hope. Black Rock dawned different. It wasn't just the smell of gunpowder in the air or the bodies being removed from the square. It was something in people's eyes, a spark where before there were only ashes. Silas walked down the main street, Esperanza at his side, both armed and alert. They had returned to town after the battle, knowing that fleeing now would be abandoning what they had started. Joachim had stayed at the Kruger ranch, recovering, organizing defenses with the farmers. Look, Esperanza pointed discreetly. On the porch of the grocery store, old Mrs. Murphy was cleaning a rifle that hadn't seen sunlight in decades. In the alley, 3 miners checked pistols. Even drunk Williams was sober, a knife in his belt. Sheriff Bartholomew Cage staggered out of the office, his face red with anger and whiskey. You 2, you're under arrest for what, Sheriff? Silas interrupted, his hand resting on the Colt. For defending the town? For fighting against murderers? For disturbing the peace? Crow's peace. Esperanza spat. Cemetery peace. A small crowd began to form. Faces in windows, people coming out of shops. Watching, waiting. Cage sweated, his fat hand trembling near his weapon. I am the law here. No, a deep voice sounded. Theodore Chang emerged from his laundry, followed by a dozen armed men. You are Crow's dog. Always have been. How dare you, Chinese? Chang's fist hit Cage before he could finish. The sheriff fell like a sack of potatoes, his badge rolling in the dust. Samuel Morrison picked it up, examined it, then threw it in a horse trough. Black Rock needs a real sheriff, Morrison declared. And needs to prepare, Silas added. Crow will come with everything he has, probably today. Dutch came out of the saloon carrying more rifles. I have 30 men willing to fight. Women too, Mrs. Murphy organized the sewing ladies. They say they can shoot as well as they can sew. Barricades, Esperanza suggested, at both entrances to town, shooters on the roofs. I lead South Defense, Chong offered. No war, fought in Taiping Rebellion before coming to America. Father Elias appeared, no longer wearing his cassock, but work clothes and an old pistol. The children and those who cannot fight are in the church basement. It's the safest place. Priest with a gun? Dutch raised an eyebrow. God helps those who help themselves, Elias replied, and he hates injustice as much as I do. That's when they saw the dust cloud on the horizon. Thick, dark, like a dust storm. But it wasn't nature. It was riders. Many riders. How many? Someone asked, fear infiltrating their voice. Silas climbed onto the saloon roof using Dutch's spyglass. He counted, his heart sinking. 60, maybe 70. Crow is bringing everyone. We have 40 shooters at most, Morrison calculated. But we have the town, Esperanza retorted. We know every alley, every roof. They have to come to us. The church bell began to ring, not alarm, but summoning. People ran, taking positions. Women carried water buckets to put out fires. Children carried ammunition to the shooters. Silas came down, meeting the eyes of each defender. Listen, Crow thinks we're sheep, that he'll come in here and massacre us as an example. But he forgot one thing. Even cornered sheep become wolves. For our dead, someone shouted. For free Black Rock, another responded. The chorus grew, a roar of decades of repressed anger. When it silenced, they could hear the approaching hooves. Then they saw him, Colonel Mordecai Crow, mounted on a black stallion, leading his private army. He stopped 100 meters from the south barricade, Flint at his side with his arm in a sling, hatred burning in his eyes. Last chance, Crow bellowed, his voice carrying like thunder. Surrender Silas Coyote and the other agitators. The rest will be pardoned. Go to hell, Crow, Mrs. Murphy shouted from the roof, aiming her rifle. Crow smiled, cold as winter. So be it. Burn everything. Kill everyone. Let Black Rock be an example to all of Texas of what happens to those who defy me. Wait! Cage appeared limping, running toward Crow. Colonel, I can help. I know where they're hiding. Silas raised his rifle, aimed. The bullet hit Cage in the middle of his back. The ex-sheriff fell face first in the dirt, crawled 2 more meters, then stopped forever. First traitor dead, Silas announced. Who else wants to negotiate with the devil? Silence. Then Crow raised his hand. Attack! The sun was at its zenith when Ezekiel Bone Flint walked alone down the main street, passing bodies and debris from the morning battle. Crow's first attack had been repelled, but the cost had been high. 12 defenders dead, twice as many wounded. The colonel's men had retreated, but everyone knew they would return. Coyote! Flint shouted, stopping in the middle of the street. Come out and face me, one-on-one, or are you a coward like your father? Esperanza grabbed Silas's arm. It's a trap. There are snipers waiting. No, Dutch observed from the window. Look, Crow is on the hill watching with a spyglass. He wants a show. If Flint kills Silas in a fair duel, it breaks the town's morale. And if I kill Flint? Then, Joaquim said, limping out of the hideout where he should have been resting, then Crow loses his best man and the town gains a hero. Silas checked the Colt. 6 bullets, cylinder turning smoothly. He looked at Esperanza, saw fear and pride battling in her eyes. If I fall, you won't fall, she interrupted, kissing him quickly, hard. But if you do, I'll finish what you started. Silas went out into the scorching sun. The street seemed longer than he remembered. Flint waited, the 2 Colts low, but ready, the bone rosary swinging on his chest. You should have stayed dead in the barn with your family, kid. You should have aimed better in the gorge, Flint. Circles of vultures made passing shadows. The wind died. Even the dust stopped dancing. Morrison had assumed the role of improvised judge, shouting from a porch. When the bell rings, not before. Seconds turned to hours. Sweat trickled down Silas's face, but he dared not blink. Flint was a statue, except for the fingers that trembled slightly. Not from fear, but anticipation. The bell rang. The guns rose as if pulled by strings. The world exploded in thunder and fire. Silas felt the wind of a bullet passing by his cheek. He saw Flint stagger. Second shot. Flint missed by a hair, the bullet taking off Silas's hat. Silas's shot hit Flint's already wounded shoulder, spinning him. Third shot. Flint, even spinning, managed to hit Silas's thigh. The leg burned like hot iron, but Silas stayed standing, his shot catching Flint in the chest. Bone fell to his knees, coughing blood, but still holding his guns. He raised one, trembling, aiming. Fourth shot. Silas was faster. The bullet found Flint's heart. The gunslinger fell on his back, arms spread like a twisted Christ, the bone rosary scattering on the ground. Silence. Then, a shout. Another. The town exploded in celebration, but Silas fell to one knee, holding his bleeding thigh. Esperanza ran, tearing the sleeve of her blouse to make a tourniquet. "You did it," she whispered. "Look," Chang pointed. On the hill, Crow lowered his spyglass. Even at a distance, they could see his fury. He raised his rifle, pointed at the town. His men began to descend the hill, no longer organized, but like a savage horde. "Everyone to positions," Morrison shouted. "They're coming with everything." "No," Silas said, trying to stand. "Wait, look north." Dust was rising from the north. More riders. For a moment, despair took over. Were they Crow's reinforcements? Then they saw the blue uniform in front. The cavalry. Federal cavalry. "It's Marshal Thompson," Father Elias shouted. "The letter! Silas's father's letter! They must have received it." Crow's men stopped, confused, caught between the fortified town and the approaching cavalry. Some began to flee immediately. Marshal Thompson, a large man with walrus mustache, stopped between the two groups, raising his voice. "Colonel Mordecai Crow, you are under arrest for multiple murders, corruption, and conspiracy. Surrender peacefully." Crow looked around, counted his men, many already fleeing, looked at the town, armed and furious, looked at the cavalry, 30 trained soldiers. "This isn't over, Coyote," he bellowed. "I swear on my life, this isn't over." He spurred his horse, fleeing west, a dozen loyal men following. The cavalry pursued, but Crow knew the territory. Thompson approached Silas, whom Esperanza was helping to stand. "Are you Nathan Coyote's son?" "Yes, sir. Your father was a good man. Sorry for your loss." He looked around, seeing the town in ruins but victorious. "We'll need testimonies, evidence. We'll hunt Crow to the ends of the earth if necessary." "I have documents," Father Elias said. "Proof of all his crimes." Joachim laughed, then groaned in pain. "We won. Damn, we really won." "No," Silas corrected, looking west where Crow had disappeared. "Not yet. He's still free." 3 weeks had passed. Black Rock was trying to heal, but the wounds were deep. Silas walked with a temporary cane, his thigh still aching. Esperanza managed her father's store, who had finally returned from hiding. Joachim had been appointed provisional sheriff, Dutch his deputy. Marshal Thompson had departed after a week, taking prisoners and promises that Crow would be hunted. He left 5 soldiers to keep the peace, but everyone knew Crow was out there, somewhere, planning. Confirmation came on a stormy morning. "Riders!" the lookout shouted from the church tower. "Many riders!" Silas climbed, limping to the observation post. Through the spyglass, he saw the nightmare materializing. Crow had returned, but not alone. Red flags with the raven symbol, Comancheros, lawless mercenaries who traded with Indians and bandits, at least 40. "How did he pay so many?" Morrison asked. "He robbed the Silver City Bank," a lone rider explained, arriving minutes later. "I'm Texas Rangers. We've been chasing for days." Crow promised $1,000 per head to every man who helped him take Black Rock. "Where are the other Rangers?" Joachim asked. "Coming, but they're still half a day away. You have to hold until then." Crow didn't wait. He positioned men in a complete circle around the town. It was no longer a frontal attack. It was a siege. He cut off the water by diverting the creek. Snipers prevented anyone from leaving. "He wants to kill us with thirst," Esperanza realized. "We have the church well," Dutch reminded. "For 40 people? For how long?" At sunset, Crow sent a messenger, one of the Comancheros, a Mexican with a knife-like face. The colonel offers a deal: hand over Silas Coyote, the Mexican whore, and the old gunslinger. The rest live. Go, Esperanza began. I accept, Silas interrupted. Everyone stared at him shocked. Tell Crow, Silas continued, that we'll come out at dawn, but not to surrender, to duel, 3 against 3. If we win, he leaves. If we lose, the town surrenders. The messenger laughed. Crow won't accept. He will, Silas stated, because he's proud, and because he wants to kill me personally. Tell him that Nathan Coyote's son calls him a coward if he refuses. The messenger left. An hour later, he returned with the answer. Accepted. Are you crazy? Esperanza exploded when they were alone. It's suicide. It's the only chance. The Rangers arrive at noon. If we can hold out in the duel until then? If, Joaquim emphasized. Big if. That night, no one slept. Silas cleaned his father's guns. Esperanza sharpened knives she hid in her boots. Joaquim drank to stop the trembling in his hand. You know, Joaquim said, looking at the stars, I spent my life running from what I did. Killed for money, for pride, for reasons I don't even remember. But tomorrow, he took another swig. Tomorrow I die for something worth it. No one is going to die, Silas stated. Kid, Joaquim smiled sadly. I've been dead for years. Tomorrow, finally, I live again. At dawn, they went out. The entire town watched from windows, rooftops, wherever they could see. In the center of the main street, Crow waited with 2 Comancheros, Serpent Morales and a giant Apache called Redstone. I changed my mind, Crow announced. Not 3 against 3, 1 at a time, duels in sequence, until only one side is left. I accept, Silas said before the others could protest. Joaquim stepped forward. I'll start. He would face Redstone. The Apache was a mountain of muscle and scars, 2 axes at his waist besides the pistols. Morrison rang the bell. Joaquim was fast, faster than his years suggested. 2 bullets in the giant's chest before he could reach the axes. But Redstone was as hard as his name. Even shot, he threw an axe. The blade spun in the air, beautiful and deadly. Joaquim dodged, but not completely. The axe caught his shoulder, spinning him. Redstone drew his pistol. The 2 shot together. Redstone fell like a cut tree. Joaquim stood for 3 seconds, smiling, then fell to his knees, then face first. Joaquim, Esperanza started to run. No, Silas held her. It's not over yet. The old gunslinger raised his hand, trembling, making a victory sign, then went still. First victory, first blood, first dead. Next, Crow bellowed, his face red with anger. Esperanza stepped forward before Silas could stop her, facing Serpent Morales. The Comanchero smiled, revealing gold teeth, spinning 2 daggers between his fingers like a macabre magician. I fight with her, Serpent announced. Knives, no firearms. Esperanza, don't, Silas began. I accept, she cut him off, taking the knives from her boots. Crow laughed. Perfect. I want to see blood spilled slowly. The 2 circled like predators. Serpent attacked first, quick as his name. Esperanza dodged, the blade cutting only cloth. She responded, making a gash in his arm. The deadly dance continued. Cut, dodge, thrust, block. Blood dripped from both, small cuts accumulating. The town watched, holding its breath. Then Serpent made an unexpected move. He threw dirt in Esperanza's eyes. She backed away, temporarily blind. He advanced for the fatal blow. But Esperanza knew dirty tricks too. She fell on her back, kicking upward when he approached. The boot caught Serpent between his legs. He doubled over, grunting. She rolled, rubbing her eyes, finding her knife by touch. Serpent recovered, furious, careless now. He attacked savagely. Esperanza waited, calculated, then moved. His knife passed through where she had been. Hers found his throat. Serpent fell, bubbling blood. Esperanza staggered, holding her side where a deep cut was bleeding. Esperanza! Silas ran to her. I'm fine, she lied. Clearly she wasn't. Finish it. Now it was just Silas and Crow. The colonel took off his coat, revealing 2 Colt peacemakers with ivory handles. Finally. I should have done this personally from the start. Before you die, Silas said, I want to know one thing. Why my family? Just for the water? Crow hesitated, then laughed. Want the truth, boy? Your father wasn't who you think. What do you mean? Nathan Coyote. That wasn't his real name. It was Nathan Crawford, my younger brother. The world stopped. Silas felt the ground disappear. Lie. Why would I lie now? Crow spat. Nathan ran away 20 years ago after he discovered how I did business. Changed his name, started a new life. I thought he was dead until that idiot Cade showed me those documents. I recognized the handwriting. Then you killed your own brother. He betrayed me first, chose morality over family, and was going to turn me into the feds. Crow growled. But here's the best part, nephew. You have the same bad blood, the same irritating sense of justice. Silas felt bile in his throat. Everything made sense now. His father's vague stories about the past, the natural ability with weapons, the way he avoided talking about family. Change your mind, Crow suddenly offered. Join me. You're blood of my blood. We can rule the whole territory together. I'd rather die. Like your father then. The sun was high now, the shadows short, the vultures circling patiently. Silas saw Esperanza being treated by Doc Morrison, Joaquim motionless in the dust, the entire town watching. He thought of his father, no, uncle, of the man who chose to be his father, who chose honor over blood. You know what was the difference between you and my father? Silas asked. What? He chose to be a coyote. You were born a raven and will die as one. Morrison raised his hand. The bell was about to ring. But then, a shout from the lookout. The Rangers! The Rangers are coming! Dust on the horizon, the Texas cavalry minutes away. Crow looked, calculated, his men already getting nervous. This isn't over, he bellowed. Ring the bell, Silas ordered. Morrison hesitated. But the Rangers, ring the damn bell. The bronze sang. The guns rose. The world exploded in thunder. Silas felt the impact in his shoulder, spinning him. He saw Crow stagger, holding his stomach. Second shot. Crow's bullet whistled past. Silas's hit his uncle's leg. Crow fell to his knees. He still tried to raise his gun. Silas walked to him, limping, bleeding. Finish it, Crow spat blood. Silas pointed the Colt, then lowered it. No, you'll live. You'll be tried. You'll rot in a cell remembering that a coyote defeated you. The Rangers arrived thundering, surrounding the Comancheros. Some tried to flee. None succeeded. Crow was handcuffed, bleeding, but alive. Before being taken away, he looked at Silas one last time. Crawford or Coyote, we're still family. No, Silas replied, embracing Esperanza, who came limping. Family is chosen. The trial would be in Austin, capital of Texas. 2 months had passed since the capture. Silas was in the courthouse, Esperanza by his side, both completely healed. Black Rock had sent a delegation, Morrison, Dutch, Chang, even Mrs. Murphy. All wanted to see justice. But something was wrong. During transport, 3 guards were found dead. Crow had escaped. How? Marshal Thompson punched the table. He was chained, guarded day and night. The answer came in a letter left in the cell. Ravens fly in flocks. I always had more nests than you knew, MC. Silas wasn't surprised. Men like Crow always had a card up their sleeve. But he had also left something, a clue, intentional or not. The letter smelled of creosote, a desert plant specific to one region. Valle de los Muertos, Esperanza recognized. My grandfather spoke of this place, an abandoned canyon where bandits hide. It's 3 days from here. It's a trap, Thompson warned. He wants you to go. I know. You're not going alone, Esperanza stated. No way, Dutch agreed. We finish this together. Morrison, Chang, the Krugers, even Mrs. Murphy took up arms. But Silas refused. No, enough innocent deaths. This is between him and me. But Esperanza stays. Everyone stays. If I don't return in a week, live your lives. Black Rock is free. That's what matters. He left that night alone, following the stars. Esperanza tried to follow him. He heard her horse, stopped, waited for her to catch up. Stubborn. I learned from you. She smiled, then became serious. Don't try to stop me. I wasn't going to. Just wanted to say. He hesitated. I love you. Terrible time for declarations, Coyote. It might be the only one. She kissed him, hard, desperate. Then you better survive. We have a wedding to plan. They rode together under the moon. On the third day, they reached Valle de los Muertos. The place lived up to its name. Animal bones, dead trees, sepulchral silence. Crow was waiting in the center, alone. He didn't look like the powerful man from before. He was thin, bearded, wild, but his eyes still burned with hatred. I knew you'd come. Blood calls to blood. Where are your men? Silas asked. What men? You think anyone would follow a defeated man? They fled with my gold as soon as they freed me. He laughed bitterly. In the end, only family remains. You killed my family. I killed my traitorous brother. But you, Crow pointed. You are what he should have been. Strong, relentless, my true heir. Never. Then die like him. But he didn't draw. Instead, he threw a gun on the ground between them. One gun. One bullet. Let's settle this like Crawfords always have. You know the game? Silas knew. His father, uncle, had mentioned it once, drunk with horror. The Crawford Russian roulette. 2 men, 1 gun between them. Whoever picked it up first could shoot or pass the gun. If he passed it, the other had to accept and do the same. It continued until someone died or gave up. I'm not a Crawford. No, but I am, and you have my blood, like it or not. Crow took a step back. Come on, nephew. Prove you're better than both of us. Silas looked at Esperanza. She understood the dilemma. If he refused, Crow would shoot them. If he accepted, he entered the sick game of the family he never wanted. He walked to the gun, picked it up. Crow smiled. Silas pointed it to his own temple. No! Esperanza screamed. He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. He passed the gun to Crow, who laughed. Brave like Nathan. Foolish like him, too. Crow took the gun, spun the cylinder, pointed at Silas. You know what Nathan said before he died? He said he forgave me. Can you believe it? He pulled the trigger. Click. He passed the gun back. Silas took it. But he didn't point it at himself. He pointed at the sky and fired. Bang! The real bullet flew to the clouds. Crow was dumbfounded. The game is over, Silas said. You lost. You cheated. You shot the bullet away. I didn't cheat. I chose not to play your sick game. He threw the empty gun at Crow's feet. You're unarmed, defeated, alone. It's over. Crow fell to his knees, suddenly old, broken. Then kill me. Finish what you started. No. Silas took ropes from the saddle. You're going back. You'll be tried. You'll pay for every life you took. I'd rather die. I know. That's why you'll live. As Silas tied up Crow, Esperanza kept watch. That's when they heard horses. Many. Dutch appeared first, followed by Morrison, Chang, and others. We thought you'd need an escort, Dutch smiled. To ensure this vermin gets back alive to be properly hanged. The hanging was scheduled for dawn. All of Black Rock gathered in the square, but there was no celebration. Just tired relief, like after a long fever finally breaks. Crow was in the improvised cell, guarded by 10 men. He spent the night in silence, refusing food, priest, last words. He just stared at Silas through the bars with eyes that promised secrets. You should talk to him, Esperanza suggested. One last time. Why? Because part of you will always wonder. Damn, she knew him well. Silas entered the cell. Crow didn't even move. I came to... Your father was alive. The words cut like a razor. What? Nathan. When I arrived at the farm, he was still breathing, begged for the twins' lives, said he would do anything. Crow smiled cruelly. You know what I said? I said he could choose, die quickly or watch them die slowly. Silas clenched his fists, fighting against rage. He chose to die. But before, he made me promise one thing, that I would let you live if you were away. I didn't know you had gone to Amarillo. Crow laughed. Technically, I kept my promise. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know. Your father died believing he had saved you. Died with hope, and you lived to destroy me. He approached the bars. We both fulfilled what he wanted, in ways he never imagined. Silas left without responding. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise. The gallows was ready. Morrison, as the new mayor, read the charges. 37 confirmed deaths, theft, extortion, conspiracy. Any last words? Morrison asked. Crow looked at the crowd, found Silas's eyes. Yes, the gold is buried under the old oak on the Coyote farm. $15,000. Everything I stole. He smiled crookedly. Consider it family inheritance, nephew. The trapdoor opened. Mordecai Crow died without fighting, without struggling. Just hung there, turning slowly in the morning breeze until stopping. It was over. 3 months later, the Coyote farm had been rebuilt. Crow's money, after much discussion, was divided among the families he had harmed. Silas kept enough to rebuild the property. He and Esperanza married on a spring afternoon, Father Elias officiating. Dutch was the best man. Mrs. Murphy cried as if it were her own son. Joaquim was there in spirit. They had placed flowers on his grave earlier. The town was thriving. Morrison brought the railroad. Chang expanded his business. Dutch transformed the saloon into a respectable place, relatively. Silas was on the porch, Esperanza by his side, watching the sunset, when the rider appeared. Alone, dusty military uniform. Mr. Coyote? Yes? Telegram, urgent. Silas opened it, read it, his blood cooling. He passed it to Esperanza. Silas, you think me dead? Long story. Captured by Apaches after Amarillo. Managed to escape. Heard everything. Proud of you. Coming home. Arriving soon. J. Coyote. Esperanza almost dropped the paper. J. Coyote. But who? Jebediah, Silas whispered. My older brother. Went to California 5 years ago looking for gold. Father said he died in an avalanche, but they never found the body. They looked to the horizon where another rider appeared, still distant, but coming toward the farm. The sun caught his shoulders, creating a silhouette that seemed familiar, impossible, hopeful. Silas. Esperanza squeezed his hand. If it's true, if Jeb is alive, then the Coyote family isn't finished. Silas completed, standing, hand on the Colt out of habit, and we don't know what he's been through or what he's become. The rider approached, slowly, steadily, like fate. Dutch appeared running from town. Silas, another message arrived. From Marshal Thompson. Says some of Crow's men escaped to Mexico but are returning, led by someone called Black Coyote. Says it's my brother, Silas finished, now clearly seeing the face of the approaching rider. It was Jeb. Older, marked, hard, but alive. Jeb stopped 20 meters away. He smiled, not the warm smile Silas remembered, but something sharp, dangerous. Hello, little brother. I heard you've been playing hero. Jeb, we thought you were dead. I was, in a way. He dismounted, his hand resting on an ornate pistol Silas had never seen. 5 years changes a man, especially when he discovers that his family was massacred and the one responsible has already been hanged by his own brother. He deserved it. Oh, I agree. But you see, I had plans for Crow and for Black Rock, and you. Jeb circled slowly, like a predator. You complicated everything. What plans? Jeb laughed cold. The same thing Crow wanted. Power, control, just better executed. He stopped, facing Silas. Together, we can take not just Black Rock. We can control the whole territory. We're coyotes, Silas. It's in our blood. Our father was weak. That's why he died, Jeb spat. But we're different. I saw what you did. You have the same darkness I do. Use it. Esperanza stepped forward. Silas isn't like you. Jeb noticed her for the first time. And you must be the Mexican. Beautiful. Silas always had good taste. His smile was ice. It will be a pleasure to get to know you better when I take over the town. Over my dead body, Silas growled. If necessary. The brothers faced each other. The wind raised dust between them. Dutch backed away, hand on his rifle. Esperanza touched the handle of her knife. It doesn't have to be this way, Jeb. No? Then how should it be? You tell me, Hermanito. How should it be when you discover you could have saved everyone if you'd been there? How should it be when you spend 5 years becoming something your father would hate, only to discover that revenge was stolen? We can start over, together, as family. Jeb considered. For a moment, Silas saw the brother he knew shine through the mask. Then it vanished. Family, Jeb repeated. Yes, but only one coyote can lead the pack. He mounted again. I have 40 men camped 2 miles away. You have 3 days to decide. Join me or get out of my way. And if I fight? Jeb smiled, turning his horse. Then we'll find out which brother-father raised better. He rode toward the setting sun, leaving only dust and the promise of a storm. Esperanza hugged Silas. What will we do? Silas looked at Black Rock, peaceful in the distance, thought of all they had fought to win, of Joaquim, dead for freedom, of promises made over graves. What we always do, he answered, checking the Colt. Protect our home. Dutch spat. It's going to be one hell of a fight. Yes, Silas agreed, seeing the moon rise red as blood. It will be. The wind howled like a coyote, or like a wolf. Sometimes it was hard to tell the difference, until the teeth appear. The end, or just the beginning. And you, do you think Silas should trust his brother? Is Jeb villain or victim? What will happen to Black Rock now? Leave your theories about what comes next.